Hi, how are you doing? Uh, it's Erica, Bernardo's oldest grandchild, if you're new around here, and I'm the maintainer of Bernardo Lapalo's legacy. And this evening, we are going to have some fun and learn some things and refresh our memory about specifically two foods that Bernardo was very, very fond of: blueberries and olive oil. Of course, extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to be reading from his classic book, Age Less, Live More, Achieving Health and Vitality at 107 Years and Beyond. If you haven't picked up this book already, I highly recommend it. It's going to mean more and more to you as the years go by. And the price, I actually dropped the price. It was $20 for years, and now it's like $17.99. So it's actually a little bit lower than the original price, because I know people are going through some things. But this is one of those books that no matter how many times you read it, it takes on more and more meaning. So in preparation for this evening, as I was going through this, I thought, my goodness, I've read this book. I've read it about every single year since it came out, and it came out in 2008, and it is now 2025. And when I read it, I always feel like, did I really understand this before? Did I really grasp this before? Of course, this is probably the benefit of maturity. So I'm 62 now. I turned 62 last month on April 8th. So how the kids say, it hits different. All right, so let's get into it. So we are going to be reading, if you have a copy of the book, from page 98, where Bernardo actually covers his Super 10 list. We're going to be reading through blueberries, which is going to bring us to page 102. And then we're going to go and continue and read olive oil, liquid gold. And that's going to take us all the way to page 107. So we've got a good amount of material to cover this evening. And as always, I'm very, very happy that you're here. I'm very grateful that you're here, and that you are helping, continue Bernardo's legacy, which is really for you, because he wanted everyone to have what he had. All right, so let me start reading. My Super 10 list. Hundreds, if not thousands, of books have been written about the medical benefits of health claims of various foods. If I were to list all of the fruits, vegetables, herbs, and other items that I personally feel are conducive to health and long life in sufficient detail to make this list of practical benefit to you, this book would wind up containing 500 pages of very fine print. There are many items that are useful and provide benefit to the body, but from this cornucopia, a few stand out as true stars. They are: 1. Blueberries. 2. Olive oil. 3. Garlic. 4. Quinoa. 5. Cinnamon. 6. Broccoli. 7. Cabbage. 8. Beans. 9. Avocado. And 10. Cantaloupe. It is these I will discuss in the following pages, my Super 10 list. Oh, Gail Turner Abbott's here. Thanks for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it. So before I go on, I just want to emphasize or underscore what Bernardo was said here, right? So right away, he's saying, hundreds, if not thousands, of books have been written on the medical benefits of health claims of various foods, right? So what Bernardo did here with this book is that he really sort of boiled it down into 10 foods that are easily accessible. They're easily accessible. You don't necessarily have to go to a special store or drive all the way across town to get them. So I find that that is the beauty of what he's saying here, is that these things are accessible, or they are easily accessible to the average person. And that's important. It's also important to eat local. That's really, really important. So America is a land of fads and trends. And, you know, you'll see these ads pop up that say, you know, XYZ berry has got 10 times more vitamin C or whatever than, you know, WXYZ. And then there's sort of a mad rush, you know, to obtain that thing. But I'm starting to realize, as you may be starting to realize, that it's very important to eat local and to eat in harmony with your environment, because the things that we import a lot of times are causing an imbalance in another part of the world, where someone's losing their farmland because of that, for the profit and for our tastes here. It's important to eat in season. If you actually eat in true season, you'll find that fruits, for example, will naturally be sweeter and taste better because it is their time. That can be maybe a confusing thing these days, because now we can kind of get whatever we want whenever we want it at any season. But I remember when I was a child that we looked forward, for example, to cherry season, to the cherries coming in. And the cherries only came in for a very short amount of time, but we looked forward to that. And of course, when they would come out, they would be so sweet, right? They would kind of come out kind of in the, you know, beginning of the summer months, and then you would have plums that would come out later, right? Like sort of August and September. And you would have strawberries that would come out at a certain time. So I just think it's important to consider those things, you know, to think about what we're doing and walk in harmony. And also because, you know, at certain times of year, it's more difficult to find certain things. And it turns out that's by design. So the creator makes certain foods available at certain times of year, which provide nutrients, specific nutrients that we need at those specific times of year because of the movements of the sun, right? The sun is going down earlier. I think you understand where I'm going with this. So I just wanted to bring that up. And again, just underscore, it's not that Bernardo wasn't aware that there were so many things that are available. A lot of times people will say, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? And Bernardo would always reply, you know, if it works for you, then do it. But I think Bernardo is a very good place to start. And these principles are solid. That being said, you may be a person who perhaps cabbage doesn't agree with you, or maybe beans don't agree with you. So you also have to pay attention to your own body, and you have to listen to your own body. That's very, very important. So another thing that Bernardo would say is that the chemicals in everyone's body is different. This is what works for me. So that's a kind of a layman's way of saying, you know, everyone has a different metabolism, right? Everyone has things that agree with them and some things that just don't agree with us. So it's important to listen to that. There was one kind gentleman who I would correspond with, who was following Bernardo, and he was always trying to get his body to eat black beans. But he said, you know, he really had a hard time digesting them, and he was having problems. And I said, well, did you soak them overnight? Did you boil them until they were tender? Did you? And he said, yes, I have, but I'm still having a problem. So I said, well, then don't eat it. It's as simple as that, okay? All right, so that's our disclaimer here. You have to use your own common sense as well and listen to your body. So let's get into blueberries. Blueberries, stars from the Great Spirit. More and more studies are touting the wonderful benefits and antioxidant qualities of the common blueberry. I can't go a day without these delicious little berries and place them at the top of my Super 10 list. History. The blueberry and its relatives have been recognized for their wonderful medicinal qualities for literally thousands of years. True blueberries are one of only a very few fruits that are native to North America, another being the cranberry. And so it makes perfect sense that the Native American people would have a great affinity and knowledge of this extraordinary plant. Because the end of each berry contains a 5-pointed star, these people thought of the fruit as a gift from the Great Spirit, sent to help stave off hunger during times of famine or distress. Native Americans also created a strong tea by boiling the roots, which was said to ease childbirth. Early American settlers learned this technique and many others from the native peoples of this land. Lewis and Clark observed that Native Americans would smoke the berries in order to preserve them for winter and also pound them into meat before smoking and drying, helping to preserve the meat. In more recent times, a close relative of the blueberry, the bilberry, was touted by British aviators during World War II as improving their night vision after they consumed bilberry jam before taking off on a mission. Further studies confirmed that they indeed helped eyesight by improving microcirculation in the capillaries of the eyes and other areas of the body. Even animals seem to love blueberries. The Latin name vaccinium is rooted in the word vaccinus, meaning cow. Both cows and also bears apparently have a great affinity for the blueberry, with bears being observed walking many miles on an empty stomach just to locate a supply of this delicious fruit. And finally, just to put to rest any doubt that this unassuming berry is a valuable ally in the quest for longevity, a box huckleberry, a cousin of the blueberry, still growing in Pennsylvania, is thought to be the oldest living thing on Earth. Covering nearly a quarter mile, it's been dated by botanists at 13,000 years old, a remnant of the last ice age. So I found this absolutely fascinating. I learned so much right here, and I'm like, wow, you know, you can make tea out of the roots. You can actually dry and smoke blueberries. They were preserved this way. A cousin of the bilberry can help improve eyesight because it helps improve circulation in the capillaries in the eyes. We know bears and cows love berries, blueberries. And then to bring it home, you know, he talks about this box huckleberry. Hey, Tim Kernack, welcome. That is the oldest living thing on Earth, 13,000 years old. That's amazing. So how's that for longevity? So now he gets into his recommendations. Because of the many health benefits and overall growth of the market, fresh and dried blueberries are now available year-round. My first recommendation, as is the case with any food, is to purchase only fresh, certified organic products if possible. The fewer pesticides and inorganic fertilizers that are ingested, the better. Blueberries are also available dried, but one should read the label before purchasing them. it seems that most dried blueberries are first infused with a sugar solution to give them more weight and pliability. The last thing we need from a health standpoint is more hidden sugars in our diet. Be aware. So I don't know about you, but I have gotten into the habit, over the years of reading labels, right? Especially if I'm going to purchase something that comes in a box, even if I'm going to purchase something like oatmeal, right? So as a general rule of thumb, I prefer to use steel cut oats, Irish steel cut oats to be precise. But if you're looking at these packets where they'll sell you instant oatmeal, just turn it around and read the back of it and see how much sugar is added to that, right? So when we were talking in the previous video, I believe it was last month, Bernanda was saying that sugar was definitely not his sweetheart. So, some sweet things, that's okay. Hi, Marco. Moderation, right? But you just want to be careful because a lot of these things are snuck into foods that we consume on a daily basis. And of course, if you have small children, you want to make sure that they're not getting OD'd on sugars and refined sugars. Benefits. Let's talk about the benefits now of blueberries on page 101. Where to start? Blueberries are at the top of my list when it comes to all-around health benefits, especially their antioxidant qualities. They contain high levels of vitamin C and E and are near the top of the list for overall antioxidant activity. Another compound, anthocyanin, gives the berries their blue color and seems to protect neurons from oxidative damage. Recent tests on mice and humans have shown that a cup of blueberries per day have a marked and long-lasting positive effect on motor skills and cognitive function, including long and short-term memory, and the overall ability to learn. These discoveries bode very well for those at risk for developing Alzheimer's disease and other memory and motor skill disorders. Yet another group of compounds called proanthocyanidins appear to prevent bacteria from sticking to the cells of the urinary tract, thus reducing risk of infection and improving urinary tract health. These and other compounds, namely flavonoids and tannins, have been shown in animal studies to lessen stroke damage and also may play a role in reducing risks of diseases like cancer. 1 cup of blueberries contains 14% of the daily recommended value of dietary fiber and are very low in sodium and fat. They contain no cholesterol and, in fact, have been shown to lower blood cholesterol. Finally, the improved capillary function and better circulation mentioned above can help with much more than just better vision. Arthritis, water retention, bruising, hemorrhoids, as well as varicose veins are all positively influenced by improved blood flow. Wow, that was a lot. That was really a lot. So much useful information. Hey, Devon. Nice that you're here this evening. Who did I skip here? Susan Gerald Stone is here. Hello, Adriana Mikulik. I hope I'm saying your name right. Adriana is here. And Kwawi Crooks is here. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So, Bernardo, you may have noticed he mentioned cranberries. So cranberry juice, unsweetened, I remember getting this recommendation that if you had a urinary tract infection, one of the ways in which to help heal that was to drink unsweetened cranberry juice. Not the one that's got a lot of sugar in it, but unsweetened, specifically unsweetened cranberry juice. Because, as he points out here, you know, these berries help keep the urinary tract healthy. Oh, good, Tim. I'm glad to hear that. Bernardo was he was a blueberry addict. He loved them. He always had fresh blueberries, and yeah, there's actually a video clip which I will post here afterwards, or I'll post a link for it afterwards. It's on YouTube, of him talking about how much he loves blueberries. And I think his dad said, "You're going to turn blue from all the blueberries you eat." Okay, so let's go on and talk about uses. So now we're on page 102. I incorporate copious amounts of fresh blueberries in my fruit salads, which I eat every day. They are wonderful as a snack and as a tasty and healthy addition to my superfood drink, with which I always start my day. I'll cover this in detail later in the book. Suffice it to say that blueberries are an outstanding addition to anyone's diet, and I believe that these stars are indeed superstars. Okay, so that was incredible. So again, you know, I've only read 99, that's 1, 2, 3. I've read 4 pages. You've covered blueberries, and it is so packed full of information, right? It's so packed full of information that you might have to reread this several times in order to absorb it all. Now we're going to move on to olive oil, otherwise known as liquid gold. And of course, when Bernardo is talking about olive oil, he's talking about extra virgin olive oil. Over on Bernardo's YouTube channel, I've posted a few videos about the search for olive oil. Because in America, you know, trying to find good quality oils like that can be difficult, although it seems to be getting easier. So there are some guidelines, you know, that you want to follow when you are looking to purchase extra virgin olive oil. First of all, that it says extra virgin olive oil on the label, that it's cold pressed. If you're not buying something that's labeled extra virgin olive oil, what manufacturers will do is that they will mix it with like soybean oil, which you can taste actually, to water it down. So if you're paying for olive oil, make sure that you're paying for the real thing. Also, another thing that you can look for is the date. You can look for the bottling date on the back of the bottle. Ideally, it shouldn't be, you shouldn't be consuming extra virgin olive oil that's older than a year. Olive oil is a fruit, after all. And you want to make sure, too, that it's in a dark bottle, because you don't want it to be exposed to sunlight, because then it's going to start to react. And if you can keep it in a cool place, in a dry place, that's good. Perhaps if you live in a place that's got a really, really hot climate, you might even want to try and refrigerate it and then take it out perhaps in the morning if you're going to use it for something, and then put it back in the refrigerator later, because you don't want it to, you know, you don't want it to get too hot, right? So those are my tips on olive oil. Okay, olive oil is something that most people don't think about when trying to improve their diet. I can tell you, however, that a diet rich in extra virgin olive oil can go a long way towards restoring vitality and bringing one back to a state of optimum health. Whether it's on the inside or the outside, you can't beat liquid gold. History. For more than 6,000 years, olives and olive oil have been treasured for their mystical and life-giving properties. They are mentioned in the Bible 55 times, from the olive branch brought back to Noah by a dove in Genesis to the 2 witnesses referred to as olive trees in Revelation. An ancient Hebrew law still in force prohibits the destruction of olive trees, and the Egyptians, Romans, and Greeks rubbed it on their skin to promote health and as a form of religious worship. Olive oil has lit the lamps of antiquity and anointed the heads of kings and prophets. For countless centuries, the medicinal and anti-aging qualities of olives have been well known. The oil was dripped through holes in the tombs of saints to anoint their bones, and olive branches were even found inside of King Tut's tomb. Solomon and King David placed guards around the groves and warehouses to ensure the protection of this precious product. The olive tree typically lives between 300 and 600 years, and the oldest known specimen is said to be 5,000 years old. To the common man, the tree seemed nearly immortal. No wonder it was viewed with such reverence. Even today, the olive tree is viewed as a symbol of peace and abundance. Its branches adorn the logo of the United Nations as well as the Great Seal of the United States, appearing on our paper currency and on the back of the dime and quarter. Homer, the poet, the Greek poet, Homer called the miraculous oil liquid gold, and it's easy to understand why. Recommendations. Actually, this is making me remember a story. If you forgive me, I'm remembering a story that my grandfather told me that when he was working as a merchant marine during the Second World War, they would also stop in different ports of call. And he and the other, his colleagues, end up stopping in Greece. So he traveled the world, he traveled to all 4 continents, and he was always curious. And so somehow, I guess when he was being transported from one place to the other, he said they went through a grove of olive trees. Don't know which island, but they went through a grove of olive trees, and to his surprise, he noticed that Greek soldiers were stationed in the olive grove, with guns. And he was like, well, what's going on here? And it was explained to him that the olive trees were considered to be so precious that they were literally being protected by soldiers during the Second World War. That story has always struck with me. So peace be upon the earth. Okay. All right. So recommendations. Olive oil is the only vegetable oil that can be consumed as is, pressed directly from the fruit without any additional processing. It can be purchased in several grades, but I would recommend using only extra virgin olive oil, often labeled first cold pressing. This is the highest quality oil, bottled without any processing and with all of the beneficial qualities intact. Other grades, such as virgin, which is a second pressing, pure, which has some refining, and extra light, heavily refined, are available, but they do not provide the benefits of the extra virgin oil. When storing olive oil, resist the temptation to keep the attractive bottle out on the counter. Light, heat, and oxygen are the enemies of this oil and can quickly cause it to go rancid. Keep the bottle in a dark, cool place with the lid tightly capped. Also, do not buy excessively large containers, as the longer it sits, the more likely it will deteriorate. Either stick to smaller bottles or decant a week's supply and place the rest in the refrigerator. It may turn cloudy and harden when cold. This is normal. It's actually a sign of quality if it does turn hard and cold in the refrigerator. That's actually one of the olive oil tests to know whether or not you've got the real thing or not. If it doesn't harden in the refrigerator in the bottle, that means that you've been duped and you've bought something inferior and not the real thing. It may turn cloudy and harden when cold. This is normal. It will become clear again at room temperature. If using this oil to fry or saute food, it is recommended that it not be placed in a pan and heated, but the food be oiled and then placed into a dry pan so as not to overheat the oil and cause it to break down. I personally believe, however, that both frying and sautéing are unwise for most foods because the excess heat destroys many beneficial nutrients. Therefore, I don't recommend either. Okay, so let me talk about this a little bit. So, Bernardo did lightly saute his greens and his garlic and his onions in olive oil, right? But he was very careful, not to have it on a super high flame and to really only saute it long enough, right, for it to be, how shall I say, tender, right? Not to overdo it. And then he would turn it off and take it off the flame. The other technique that he's suggesting here, which is maybe something you might have done with another oil, for example, sometimes you see people like taking kale and they'll massage the kale with oil, right? Do that before they go ahead and saute it. So that's what he's actually recommending. If you're going to steam, you can lightly steam, which can be done. That's as simple as putting, just a little water. And people say, well, how much is a little? Well, you have to use your judgment, right? And you have to know, the quantity, that you're using. I'm a little spoiled maybe because I'm used to cooking by eye. So I may not be the best person to explain this, but if you're using, let's say, this much kale, you don't want to use a cup of water, for that little amount of kale because greens are going to shrink. But you could put, just enough maybe to cover the bottom of the saucepan, and then add your greens to it, and you'll see that it will naturally turn kind of a bright green, right? And then you can remove it from the flame, maybe cover it so it steams a little bit, right? Becomes a little bit softer, and then you can take it off. So the point is that you don't want to overcook your greens. Hi, Jean. You don't want to overdo it. Okay, so moving on. Benefits. Perhaps no single food source provides as many unique health benefits as does extra virgin olive oil. Study after study have shown a positive impact on conditions like high blood pressure, heart disease, asthma, arthritis, diabetes, the inhibition of colon and other cancers, and even weight loss. It protects the digestive systems and can help with ulcers, gastritis, and gallstone formations. It has also been shown to control LDL, right, which is considered the, quote, bad cholesterol, raise HDL, the good cholesterol, and reduce triglycerides. It is truly an amazing substance. Specifically, olive oil contains healthy monosaturated fatty acids, and it is also very high in antioxidants like vitamin E, chlorophyll, carotenoids, and phenols. By helping to prevent LDL cholesterol from oxidizing and forming sticky plaque on the walls of the arteries, it substantially reduces risks for heart disease and high blood pressure. So in other words, you want to keep everything clean, right? You want to keep your colon clean, and you want to keep your arteries clean, because the key in life, as I'm learning as I get older, everything is really about circulation. Everything is really about keeping things moving, right? So when there's a lack of circulation, like in our face, or for example, women can easily relate to this example, then we start to look like we're getting old, right? Because the blood flow, it's not reaching. The blood is a source of life, and the blood is literally carrying nutrients to every part of the body, to your organs, and of course the skin is the largest organ of the body and suffers the most wear and tear. So just as a little, I'm going to share a little bit here. When I, put on, my moisturizer, right? After I do that, I will do some tapping. Tapping. I'm not slapping myself, but I will do some tapping, right? And I'm doing that because it's going to increase the circulation, right? The blood flow. And it's also going to help whatever I apply to my skin, preferably extra virgin olive oil, to sink in, more deeply, right? And it also helps drain the lymphatic system. So as I have said earlier, I'm 62, right? But don't really have any wrinkles. I mean, you can see that I've got some, some crow's feet here. It's okay, I'm not freaked out about that. And, but I don't have, deep wrinkles, right? So extra virgin olive oil is also found it to be very useful. People always used to comment on Bernardo's skin and how beautiful his skin was and how he didn't have any wrinkles, even when he was well into his hundreds. And so he would say to women, well, what do you put on your skin? And they would go on to great lengths saying, these different creams and different things that they would use. And then he would say, well, would you eat that? Oh, no, I wouldn't eat that. It's just for my skin. He said, well, where do you think it goes? Right? Everything that you put on your skin eventually goes into your bloodstream, and that's going to hit your stomach, and you're going to digest that. So another thing that you might find useful is that you might find actually maybe taking a teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil, every day, or maybe every other day. Again, you have to listen to your body. You might find that to be helpful, and you might find that to help improve things in your digestive tract. Okay, so then he goes on to talk about specifically, okay, so we already talked about that, all right. Now, the last paragraph in this section, he says, olive oil seems to help control blood sugar and is linked to lower triglyceride levels. It acts as an anti-inflammatory, which can reduce the symptoms of both arthritis and asthma, and substituting olive oil for other fats in the diet has been shown to aid in weight loss without requiring additional physical activity. These are, I say all of this, with a disclaimer. If you have a doctor and you are undergoing some kind of a treatment and following a protocol, with your doctor, it's important to consult your doctor before you, do something radical, right? If you've kind of grown up in a certain way, like the way Bernardo grew up, where he was really trained this way from a very young age, then it's, how shall I say, it's sort of natural to you. You haven't known anything else. It's what your body is accustomed to. But when you're trying to make a transition from one lifestyle and go to another lifestyle, going gradually, and going slowly is recommended, right? Instead of making extreme changes too quickly. Because if you make an extreme change too quickly, you're going to find yourself maybe in some difficulty, right? Maybe feeling lightheaded or off or what have you not. Whereas if you go slowly, then you have a chance, to feel it out and give your body an opportunity to adjust to things. Okay. Uses. We're going to conclude with uses. Olive oil can be substituted for any other vegetable oil in most cases. Only 2 tablespoons per day can begin to produce the kind of positive effects discussed above. The only caveat is not to overheat it when frying. See above. I use it externally every day by rubbing it on my entire body and face after a shower or any time. I have been doing this for many years, and the elasticity and overall quality of my skin is comparable to someone half my age. By using it on the bottoms of the feet, elbows, and other rough areas, any calluses or cracks will eventually vanish. It can also be used as a protective lip balm by mixing a small amount with beeswax, and it will help eliminate dandruff if used on the scalp prior to shampooing. I truly believe that no pantry should be without a fresh bottle of liquid gold. So that's a conclusion on page 107. I've probably already mentioned this before, and you may know this already, but Bernardo would also use extra virgin olive oil as like a light pomade on his hair. He didn't use gels. He certainly didn't use hairspray. But he would do that, to keep his hair and his scalp, in good condition. I'm not suggesting that you take a bottle of olive oil and pour it over your head, but you can just take a little bit and work it in. This is also something that the ladies might be familiar with, because you can also do a deep conditioning, right, with extra virgin olive oil, or you can even do it with something like shea butter, right? You melt it down, and then when it's at a cool enough temperature, then you apply it to the hair, you rub it into the scalp, you can braid the hair, and then you wrap the hair up, maybe in a plastic bag. You sleep with a towel, and then the next morning, you can wash it out, you can rinse it out, and that's like a deep conditioner for your hair, right? That's the oldest trick in the book, right? The other thing, so Bernardo would do it for that, and I think that I have mentioned before that he also used it in his foot soak, right? So he would get his little tub. Of course, he had a little bit of a fancy one that had, jets in it. But you can just get a tub of hot water. You don't want to scald your feet, of course. Or you can just sit at the edge of the tub, just be mindful that you don't slip. And in it, you can put a couple of tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, and you can put in, a generous amount, maybe a quarter to a half a cup of Epsom salts, and then just soak your feet in that, and then use a pumice stone to lightly, gently remove any dead skin. And you will notice that the olive oil, not only is it going to leave your feet feeling incredibly soft, it also has this effect of removing dirt. All this dirt that you didn't even know was on your feet is just going to come right off. And another thing which he touched upon here, because he was also a podiatrist, Bernardo, is that if you find that you've got a corn on your foot, you've got a callus or a corn because we're wearing tight shoes and your feet hardly see the light of day and they're squeezed in there with socks and all of that, you can take the time and massage some oil on that callus, right, on that corn, every evening, for example, when you get home. And if you are consistent in doing that, the corn or the callus will literally come right off. It will literally come right off. I've had personal experience with that because I said, hey, Grandpa, look at this. I got, I like to wear heels. Grandpa, look at this. I got this corn here. It's like, oh, well, just rub it, just rub it with some oil, get the circulation in there, and it will come right off. So again, just the fact that you've got a corn or a callus or a bunion, that is actually a symptom of a lack of blood flow and a lack of circulation to that part of the body. Let me see who else is here. Shireen is here. Welcome, Shireen. Thank you for being here. Kimberly Carter Shears, thank you for being here. Who did I miss? Iris Horge Smith, thank you so much. Kelly Jean Major, thank you for being here. I think we are okay. So it's 7:15. I just wanted to share one other thing with all of you. Anitra Procis is here. Welcome. So today, it dawned on me that I need to start eating more cabbage. So Grandpa used to make this wonderful cabbage salad, which there's a recipe for it over on the YouTube channel. And by the way, Facebook is going to be taking away all the live videos that I did here on Facebook, storage or whatever. So I will continue to do live videos here, but what's going to happen is that they're going to be removed automatically by Facebook. So I'm in the process, of looking and downloading any live videos that I have done on this page over the past 5 years or so to make sure that they make it over to YouTube so this knowledge isn't lost. So please subscribe to Bernando's YouTube channel. It's Age Less. I think it's Age Less, Live More. I will post, again, when I post a link for the blueberries, then if you could go over there and subscribe, that would be good because Facebook is pulling the plug on a lot of these things. As I was saying, I realized that I needed to eat some more cabbage. So when I went to the market, I picked up a small head of Savoy cabbage. And I thought, I'm going to share with the group this very cool healing method that Grandpa used to use on his patients that would complain about arthritis of the knees, right? You get older and you get stiff and it can be painful to walk. So what he would do was and they kind of look like kneecaps, right? So he would take the cabbage, he would cut the vein out, if necessary, the hardened vein out. He would put a hot towel on the patient's kneecap, not that it would burn, but hot enough to open up the pores. And then he would put the cabbage leaf on the kneecap of the patient, and then he would wrap it in an ace bandage. The next morning, you leave it on overnight, and the next morning, after the bandage is loosened, you may find that the inflammation and the pain that you were feeling in your knee is greatly relieved. So I just wanted to share that just because you've watched this video so far with me to the end. And that's just, nature is full of so many of these little remedies, right, that can give us some relief on the way to creating a healthier lifestyle for ourselves. So keep that in mind. The other thing I'm going to do, as always, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to pin, the resources to Bernando's daily menu and regime, his medicine chest, where you can get his books, and also, of course, where you can get Superfood Plus and so many other wonderful non-pesticide, wild-crafted, soy-free, vegan, plant-based nutritional supplements from Dr. Richard Schultz, who was definitely Bernando's main man in terms of herbology, in terms of remedies, and they've got so many things there and so many specifics as well. So I will also pin that. And if you have never tried anything from Dr. Richard Schultz's American Botanical Pharmacy, and you're going to be a first timer, if you create an account, you use the link I provide, and you put in AFL1 new, I'll post that, then you can get a 10% discount on your first order. So take your time when you're looking around there. Also, about every other month, Dr. Schultz has free shipping on any amount of orders, and sometimes he has free shipping if you order, $75 or more. But shipping is expensive these days, and this is a great way to try something out and improve your health on a daily basis. So I don't know if anyone's got any questions or comments here. I'm scrolling through. Tim says such great information. I will definitely be increasing my blueberries. That is fantastic news. Let me see. I don't think anyone else has any questions, but sometimes questions will show up later in a video. So rest assured that if they do, I will reply to you. Next month, we're going to have another reading. Also, I hope that you enjoyed, Mother's Day. If you're a mom or maybe a grandma, or if your own mother is still around and you have that opportunity to cherish her and show her love. So we're going to be going on with Bernando's top 10 foods. We're going to be talking about garlic and also going to be talking about, let me see, cinnamon, true cinnamon. How could we forget that? So again, Bernando has divided these chapters up into, talks about what he's going to talk about, the garlic, and he talks about the history. Then he talks about his recommendations, and he talks about the benefits, and often he will share a little anecdote. So this book is priceless. It's highly recommended. I highly recommend that you get it. It's something that you can share and read forever. And it's going to mean more to you as time will go on. So, okay, so Jean's question, do you use olive oil on your face or skin? Yes, I totally use extra virgin olive oil on my skin. I've been doing that for a long time. I've been doing that for decades. That's why I don't have any wrinkles. That's why. Right? That's why Grandpa didn't have any wrinkles. He didn't wrinkle. You got to understand that extra virgin olive oil, the good stuff, it's medicinal, right? When I think about Greek culture, just circling back to the Greeks and them protecting the olive trees during the Second World War that Bernardo witnessed as he was going through there, also remember Athena, right? Or Athena, the green-eyed goddess. Her symbols are the olive branch, right? The spider, the olive branch, and the owl. So also I believe that expression, olive skin, probably comes from this, from these ancient peoples in classic civilization using these things. So olive trees are very precious. They should never be destroyed. For those of you who are destroying olive trees, cease and desist. They live to be 300 to 600 years old, or even longer than that. I don't really recommend brands per se. That is why I have spoken about the guidelines of what you need to look for. So if you look at the beginning of this video, or halfway through when I talk about olive oil, and also over again on the YouTube channel, I talk about things that you should look for when you're buying extra virgin olive oil. Yeah. I'm gonna leave it at that. This is a fun discussion. I like to see what you guys find out and discover instead of it just being a one-way thing. Also, sometimes brands get sold and the integrity of the product that was maintained by the original founders is lost. For example, there's a certain pop star that bought Bragg's apple cider vinegar and took the mother out of it. So apparently it's not as potent as it used to be because, there you go. So I always recommend, again, reading labels, being aware, and staying up on things. Also, if you have the opportunity to go to a farmer's market, it's getting warmer now, and the farmers are coming out with their wares and talking to them and having a relationship with them. Some places don't do any spray. Some places do low spray, in terms of pesticides. It's really, really important to talk to people and to really understand where your food comes from. I can't recommend that enough. So I will post that again. Please subscribe to Bernando's YouTube channel because as of July, all the live videos that are on here are going to go bye-bye. Facebook is changing its policy, its storage policy, and that's going to disappear. So I don't want you to lose out on that. So I am going to conclude here. I thank you very, very much for being here. And remember to keep your liver and your colon clean. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.